From KPFK in Los Angeles, California, Valley Free Radio in Florence, Massachusetts, WNUC in Detroit, and BikeTalk.org worldwide, this is Bike Talk.
Bike Talk.
Welcome to Bike Talk. I'm Taylor Nichols.
And I'm Nick Richard.
Hey, Nick.
Hey.
You know, we got a lot going on. There's a polar vortex across much of the country. Minneapolis, Minnesota is breaking down, and DHS is warning FEMA not to tell people to beware of ice.
I mean, it's like a competition to be more insane.
I mean, I guess ice only has one meaning now, right? It's like F ice.
Yeah, ice is bad. We don't want ice.
Well, we want to start with two people who have been on the show in the past. Brett McGraw, who is a member of West Metro Active Transportation Alliance, and Laura Mitchell, the former president of Our Streets Minneapolis. Both are Minneapolis natives and bikers, and we wanted to talk to you all about what's going on in Minneapolis. And Alex Preddy, who is the American citizen, although I don't know it really matters all that much if he was an American citizen or not, but who was killed by ICE officers. But he was one of us. He was a biker. So Brett and Laura, thanks for taking the time. Welcome to Bike Talk.
Thank you, Taylor. Laura, before we get started, just wanted to check in with you and see how you and the family are doing.
My family is safe and fine, and my neighbors are absolutely not. And so that's weighing on me really heavily. Just before I was hopping on, I was getting texts from some families that I'm supporting that ICE is going door to door. We're in the middle of trying to get rent out to families that are at risk of eviction, and have a lot of families that are really hungry and really scared. So it's rough out here. How about you?
I haven't heard that ICE is going door to door. So it's completely random?
I don't know how random it is, but there are multiple neighbors who have had ICE knock on their doors. Both neighbors who are documented and neighbors who I don't know their immigration status.
When this started, they were going to Home Depots, grocery stores, Target. And as this has intensified, people are staying home. So many people are stuck in their homes. They're afraid to go to work. They're afraid to go to school. And when they no longer had easy pickings at the Home Depots and Targets, then they decided that they'd just start going door to door and going through neighborhoods.
And grabbing people from bus stops and everywhere.
The biggest impact is being felt in Minneapolis and St. Paul, but they're raiding apartment buildings in St. Louis Park. They're up in Maple Grove. They're outstate. They're in St. Cloud, Duluth, Alexandria, Rochester. It doesn't matter. They're all over the state.
How do they decide whose door to go to?
I have no idea. And just today, a friend of mine had her next door neighbor taken when the neighbor was showing up for her immigration appointment and had her 6-year-old with her. Our mayor had shared stories of people being taken from their cars so quickly that the person driving didn't have time to put the car in park, and they were pulled out of their car, and then the car rolled down the block because it was not in park yet. So things are happening really fast, and they feel like they're all over the place, and they can feel really random. Again, both, as Brett was saying, both citizens and non-citizens have been impacted. And so pretty much anyone who is not white, in some cases, white folks who are being legal observers, obviously, are really at risk too.
A neighbor of yours had a newborn and she was afraid to go out without a white person?
Yep. So that's been a lot of the various ways that folks have been supporting. And so a neighbor that I've been helping had a newborn and needed to get to an appointment at the hospital, but didn't feel safe going by herself. And so I took her and accompanied her.
Wow.
And I think that's the other aspect that I would share with folks is like, there are really intense ongoing needs. In addition to the murders that are happening, there are really, really intense impacts for our neighbors. And so there's a really great website called standwithminnesota.com that has a lot of vetted fundraisers to help our neighbors who are really impacted by things right now. So with food, with shelter, with lots of ongoing needs, I'd definitely recommend folks check that out.
And you mentioned earlier that you were delivering rent to people who were struggling. So
yeah, the rent this month is really, really intense because most people haven't been able to work. There's some very deep needs for rent, and we really need an eviction moratorium too to keep folks safe.
we are not a hard news organization here at Bike Talk, but is there any information that you all have about Alex Preddy's killing that maybe our audience doesn't know or we don't know? Or
I can just tell you my perspective because it happened literally in our backyard here at the gym. I'm actually at the gym that I manage, we're right at the intersection of Nicollet and 26th Street. And this happened just on the other side of the intersection from us. When the shooting happened, my manager called me to inform me, and I told them to lock the doors. And then they were firing tear gas into our parking lot. And at that point, I ended up touching base with my staff, and they had already decided they were going to leave. And so they got out and had to brave the tear gas and get in their cars, and they were able to get out safely. Then I came down in the evening for the vigil for Alex Preddy, and by then all law enforcement had left.
Are people using bikes to protest in Minneapolis?
Oh yeah, bikes are a critical element. Best way to be mobile and be able to get around and get away when the tear gas and the rubber bullets start flying is to be on a bike.
Yeah. There's a ride for Alex Saturday the 31st. Laura, you posted it on Blue Sky. Does it come through the bike store, the Angry Catfish?
Yeah, so I didn't know him personally, but he lived in my neighborhood and went to one of our local bike shops, Angry Catfish. And there's a really awesome group of folks who do ongoing weekly bike rides at Angry Catfish. And so they have started this sort of memorial bike ride happening this Saturday. And they, as far as I know, are planning to stop both at the memorial for Alex, the memorial for Renee Good, and then also biking down to the VA hospital because Alex was an ICU nurse down there. And so wanting to honor him in that way.
Wow.
All right. So you're going on this ride, Laura?
I am. And the Angry Catfish is encouraging folks to plan their own rides wherever they are on Saturday. And so I've already seen some folks in Chicago starting to plan one, and anyone else who's interested. I think this is a great way for the bike community to show up and show some solidarity with Alex and for everyone who's continuing to be impacted by what's going on with our federal government right now.
Well, you've been on the show a few times, Laura. Brett, you've been on before. It's amazing that Bike Talk would have anything to say about this in particular, but turns out I saw a picture posted by Surly of Alex with his ogre. So you ride the same brand, Taylor.
Yeah, love Surly's. And, I know that picture so well, standing next to your bike on the midst of a ride and smiling. And that's what I see in Alex when I look at that picture. Brett McGraw and Laura Mitchell, thanks very much. And thanks for keeping us abreast of what's going on in Minneapolis. I know it's cold there. And Brett, I know you're a winter rider. Laura, you're going to be a winter rider on Saturday. I know that.
Oh, yeah, I'm already a winter rider, too.
Yeah, of course.
I think actually the last time I saw Brett, we were riding in the cold, although it wasn't solidly winter yet.
Right. Laura Mitchell and Brett McGraw from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Thanks a lot for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A bike is a great tool to use at a protest.
Yeah, makes sense.
We do know that traffic violence is devastating all cities, whether it be Minneapolis or New York or Los Angeles. Damian Kevitt is the founder and president of SAFE, Streets Are For Everyone, and they held a die-in Los Angeles at City Hall last Saturday. Damian Kevitt, welcome back to Bike Talk. You've been on many times, and we've talked about the die-in the past. 290 people were killed in the city of Los Angeles on our streets. Can you tell us a little bit about how Saturday went?
This is the fourth time we've done a die-in. It was led by Streets Are For Everyone, but we had a coalition of about 20 plus organizations that were involved in this die-in, whether by promoting it or were physically there. We had LA Critical Mass was there as well. This is the first time LA Critical Mass has taken part in sort of an advocacy type role in one of these events. So we had a lot of people there. We chanted, we protested, we all symbolically died for 290 seconds for the 290 people. We did a press conference there. I spoke. We had Johnny Hale, who I know you've had on. He was there from People's Vision Zero speaking. Councilmember Hugo Soto Martinez was speaking, as well as other victims of traffic violence who've lost their loved ones. It was quite a symbolic event, but it was a very impactful event. And the media was there in droves. We had, I think, 13 media outlets covering this particular event.
Wow. Yeah, there was a big article in the Los Angeles Times. You were on the show talking about another protest
Yeah, so that was one that we did at the beginning of the budget season for the city of Los Angeles. The mayor had proposed a budget that would have eliminated all positions in LADOT that had anything to do with road safety. We were outraged. And so we organized a protest, also a die-in at City Hall, and a memorial for LADOT. We actually held a mock memorial for the Department of Transportation because that's what it would have done. It would have decimated and killed
Right.
off the entire section. That was pretty effective. There was some cutbacks. There were still cutbacks, but we saved all of the positions in LADOT as a result of that one. This one really focused its message more on the tools that the city has that it's just either refusing to use or just bureaucratically constipated and is not using, like Assembly Bill 645, which is the speed safety systems that Los Angeles has been given authorization to use.
Is that
as well
speed
as,
cameras?
yeah, those are
Okay.
speed cameras and Measure HLA. And the speed cameras, I do want to say, San Francisco was the first city out of the gate in California with those speed cameras. And they've had a 72% drop in speeding. Last year, they had a 50% drop in fatalities since they
Wow.
started using the speed cameras.
That's amazing because the LA program is only a pilot program and it's only on a few streets.
So the LA program hasn't started yet because they're still a year out from even starting.
Wow.
And they're allowed 125 systems, but that's for the entire city of Los Angeles. That's for 2,000 miles of road.
Wow.
So that number seems like a lot, but it's really a drop in the bucket. San Francisco was only allowed 30, I think it's 33 systems, if I remember correctly. And they had a 50% drop in fatalities. Of course, they're much smaller by area.
Right.
So 33 is more appropriate for that size of city.
Well, Damian, thanks for, making us aware that the city has the tools to stop road violence, but is not using them. And it's pressure from organizations like SAFE that hopefully will change that.
Absolutely there. And we will continue to bring that pressure to bear upon them.
Great. Damian Kevitt of Streets Are For Everyone. Thanks, Damian. Nick, someone told me one time, like 85% of bike riders run stop signs. And then they said, yeah, but 90% of cars do. So, there's this myth out there that there are these scofflaw cyclists, that they're out there breaking laws everywhere. So we brought Jim Pocrass back on of Pocrass and DLS Race to kind of be a myth buster and tell us that it's not always the cyclists that are breaking the law. Sometimes it's actually the driver that's breaking the law. Jim Pocrass, welcome back to Bike Talk.
Well, thank you for having me again. And I think this is a great topic.
Yeah, so how did this myth start that, bikers are bad people?
Well, I think it started originally because the laws, when they first were promulgated, they were mainly directed toward drivers and vehicles. Okay, so, but as the laws have developed, really cyclists have the same rights with regard to the road as drivers do. But I
Right.
think there's a public misunderstanding or misconception and perceptions that people have developed by seeing, how cyclists are on the road and whether what they're doing is legal or illegal.
What are the myths that people who are riding bikes are always breaking the laws?
Well, I think the first one that comes up all the time is that cyclists never stop at stop signs. Okay, and there are many states that allow what's called an Idaho stop, where it treats stop signs as yield signs, but most drivers don't know that.
Right.
But in California, the law is that you're supposed to stop at a stop sign. But when cyclists come up to a stop sign, they're going at very slow speed. They have their momentum going forward. If there's no cars, they'll go on through a stop sign. Okay, but people just go crazy over the fact that cyclists just don't follow the laws, whether it's rolling stops or red lights.
Right. And a person on a bike is on a 30-pound bike, and a person driving a car is in a 3,000-pound SUV.
Right. And the next thing that I hear all the time is that the cyclists are not riding far enough to the right. And again, police officers and the public in general don't know that it may be legal for a person on a bicycle to take the lane. I mean, if the lane's too narrow to share safely or avoiding hazards, parked cars, debris, or doors, or preparing to make a turn, they're allowed to take the lane.
Right. And at least now there are occasionally a sign that says cyclists may use full lanes. So I'm glad that that's finally out there.
Yeah, there's signs all over the place, and it's on the road. You see Charles all over, where cyclists can use the entire road. But then the other perception is that the cyclists are not using bike lanes when present. But again, the law is that if bike lanes are blocked or unsafe or poorly maintained or they end abruptly, it's optional to use a bike lane. But again, people get, really pissed off, and then they start, honking their horn. And they also get upset about the fact that a lot of cyclists don't use signaling when they're making a right or a left turn. It's all developed because of perceived unfairness, like that I follow the rules, why don't they? Or the unpredictability and the misunderstanding of what the law really is.
Yeah, but that part of it, the I follow the rules part, is really just delusional.
I was going to say the same thing.
Right. And then, what really gets me is the fact that drivers do more illegal things and are more dangerous because of not only their size, but, using unsafe passing where we have a 3-foot minimum when passing a cyclist, and the vehicles will come right by somebody, like 1 foot away or hit them with their side view mirror. So they're breaking the law with regard to that. But other things, that the drivers do, opening their doors and a cyclist is coming by without even looking. Like I said, there's just so many other things that the drivers do, speeding and distracted driving on their cell phones and things like that.
Well, Nick, you were even saying that drivers don't think speeding's breaking the law sometimes.
Yeah, you drive the speed limit, people will act like you're breaking the law.
Right.
One of the things that just gets me is the fact that, that motorists don't feel they have to stop when they hit somebody, in the number of hit and runs, that it's an epidemic out there. They just feel that they don't even have to stop anymore.
Right.
I think we just need to, educate the public. We need to educate the police officers because they don't know what the laws are with regard to cyclists. And it has some major effects, in reducing settlements from my standpoint as a lawyer. The police reports are wrong. There's a delay in making claims and mischaracterization of conduct. And I see it day in and day out.
Right. Well, the myth has been busted. Jim Pocrass of Pocrass and De Los Reyes, thanks again.
Thank you for having me again.
Jim Pocrass of Pocrass and De Los Reyes. And that leads us right into Charlie's news, Nick.
Yeah, Charlie's news.
Hey, it is Charlie here with a week's news. Following up on the news from last week about the potential e-bike bill in New Jersey, it was signed into law on Governor Phil Murphy's last full day in office. People for Bikes reports that the law requires that all e-bikes need a registration and a driver's license, and bikes in Class 2 and 3 now require insurance. Widely seen as completely horrible by bike advocates, one bright spot in the bill is better regulation on e-motos that are often deceptively sold as Class 2 e-bikes, but are really essentially electric motorcycles. From Streets Blog NYC, the city of Hoboken, New Jersey, had a 3-month pilot program starting in October of last year called Camera-Based License Plate Enforcement for Access and Response Times, aka CLEAR. The program used parking enforcement cameras to help traffic enforcement get drivers out of bike and bus lanes. Despite bike lanes being blocked 22 hours less per day and bus lanes 11 hours less per day, the new mayor won't commit to reinstating the program. And some good news from New Jersey, though. The Bicycle Coalition of Philadelphia reports that $14 million has been awarded for bicycle and pedestrian projects in New Jersey. The state reports that the city of Columbia, South Carolina, will not be getting its bike share program back even as there is expansion of bike lanes in the city. The program was paused in 2023 with bikes being put into storage, and now the city plans to sell all of that equipment and infrastructure, making it much more difficult for a simple relaunch of the program in the future. From Urbanize Atlanta, a popular and successful e-bike rebate program that helped 900 e-bikes from local brick-and-mortar stores find their way to the streets for income-qualified Atlantans, may see another round coming. City Council member Matt Westmoreland has proposed another $1 million be donated by the city for round 2 of the program, and his legislation will come before the entire council in February.
Jay Vine won the Tour Down Under, which is a professional bike race in Australia. And on his way to winning, a kangaroo actually knocked him down. jumped out of the bushes during the race and knocked him and another biker down, but he hung on and won the stage race.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
In New York City, one of the writers for Streets Blog NYC, Dave Colon, in a press conference with Mayor Mamdani, he said, "Do you know what a sneckdown is?" And Mamdani didn't know. Do you know what a sneckdown is?
I do. Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't know.
Well, I didn't know. It's snow plus neck down, which it's a piece of concrete infrastructure that narrows a street in order to calm traffic and protect pedestrians. And
that's a neck down.
That's a neck down. Okay.
Right.
So, but when the snow comes, it's a sneck down.
Right.
What happens is snow piles up where neck downs could be built. So it shows you where there could be a neck down.
Right.
So Streets Blog is having people send in pictures of neck downs, places where snow is showing where there could be a neck down.
Right. And, you know, the great thing about this is it shows you how much space on the road the car really does need as opposed to how much space the car is given.
Right. And so they'll pass those pictures on to the mayor. We'll put the link in the show notes at biketalk.org.
And Mayor Mamdani learns something new every day.
I imagine he's learning a few things.
Yeah, right. And, you know, speaking of neck downs, today we have a whole panel of winter bike riders, people who aren't bothered by, you know, riding in the cold and in the snow.
All weather riders, year-round riders. One person from Tempe.
You're right.
There was a post on Blue Sky, and I think it was Laura Mitchell, who's in Minneapolis and can't be with us right now, but she's involved in Minneapolis actions and mutual aid. Somebody posted there are 6 months of the year when you can't bike. And somebody's response to this was, this is an anti-bike trope. There are X number of months in the year that you can't bike. And so we started this panel. I think the first people involved were Patrick from Oh the Urbanity and Laura Mitchell. Patrick and Laura helped suggest people to invite to this.
Such a great group we have. It's really nice to see everybody. That's one of the things we love about the show is bringing people together. In Los Angeles, Nick, where I am, you can bike 12 months out of the year. But as you say, it's an anti-bike trope. So why don't we jump in and start? Sarah, you want to tell us who you are and where you are and how many months out of the year you can bike there?
Absolutely. Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Sarah Bisbee. I am a bike advocate. I go by Mommy Pedals, and I am a mom of 4, and I ride my cargo bike all year round in Edmonton, Alberta, with my kids. And it was a brisk minus 20 Fahrenheit this morning on the way into work. Doesn't stop me from riding.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patty Wiens, and I'm the bicycle mayor of Winnipeg, Canada. It is currently minus 35 degrees Celsius. That is minus 31 Fahrenheit, plus the wind, if we take that into account. And I have reports of several of my friends biking to work today. I do not because I'm working from home, but I did bike in minus 30 just 2 days ago, and it was glorious. So yes, there are times when I can't bike to work, and that's mostly when I'm working from home.
Hi everyone, I'm Patrick. I run the YouTube channel Oh the Urbanity. I'm based in Montreal, Quebec, which is the harshest winter of a large metro area in North America. So not quite as cold as Winnipeg, but if you consider snow as well, it's the harshest. And I bike year round here. I did a few years ago a challenge trying to bike every single day in the winter. And I found that I had trouble maybe half a dozen days, serious trouble, where it didn't make sense. Aside from that, every day was, practical, if not pleasant. Just have to prepare and, assuming your city does a good job of plowing the bike lanes, which cannot always be assumed, but...
On the days that you can't ride, do you drive? Do you take mass transit? Do you walk?
I don't own a car because in central Montreal, a car is kind of a burden. I walk or take the metro or the bus. The interesting thing about the day is that it doesn't make sense. What I found is not that it's dangerous. It's that, there's a big storm and the bike lanes aren't plowed yet. It's a challenge to bike. It's not worth biking, but it's not that it's dangerous most of the time, except, occasionally there'll be a bad ice storm where it really is dangerous.
Thank you.
Nick, Laporte.
Hey, that's me. Is it working? Okay. Yeah, I'm Nick Laporte. I produce content on YouTube, somewhat similar to Patrick over at Over the Year Vanity, but I live in Vancouver, BC, where we get a whole lot of rain, about 150 days a year of rain. It's not the rainiest place in the Pacific Northwest, but we get enough where it's something you have to learn how to ride through. And it's something that we see all the time, especially on social media. Oh, we can't bike in Vancouver. It rains too much, which is just such a low bar to get into compared to Montreal or Minneapolis or Winnipeg or Edmonton that it's almost laughable, but it's something that can be overcome very easily. And so I'll pass it over to Victor.
Howdy, folks. Thank you for having me. I'm Victor Koves, creator of the photo video project Chicagoans Who Bike. I'm based in chilly Chicago, Illinois, USA, where it's currently -6 Fahrenheit, feels like negative, I think, 30 or 40. So that's -21 C. So not Canadian cold, but quite cold. And I talk to a lot of people who bike, and I bike 12 months out of the year, often because I have to. I have to get somewhere. So
And the wind doesn't blow there, right?
I sure wish it didn't. We like to say Chicago's flat, but the wind is our hills. You can get some really, really harsh winds. It's really quite brutal, but we make it work. And I will pass it to Nacho.
Hi, everyone. Thank y'all for having me. My name is Nacho, and I get to represent the other side of the biking, the heat side. So I'm from Tempe, Arizona, so a suburb of Phoenix. And yeah, I'm a cargo bike dad. I moved from the suburbs, car dependent suburbs, over to Tempe to live completely car free with my son and my wife. And yeah, we bike all year round, even in the 115, 120 degree heat.
Wow, yeah, that's one thing we have to deal with here in LA. But I have found that I can beat the heat by either going in the morning or in the later evening. Is that the same thing in Tempe, or is it still too hot even in the morning and evening?
There's days where we're waking up and it's feeling like 100. You know, we have the heat island effect here where
Right.
essentially we cook all day. There's minimal trees. We can do it. We can get away with it in the mornings, find the shade, but it's still not comfortable.
Right. And let me ask you also, is your cargo bike e-assist or not?
Yeah, it's an e-cargo bike,
That also helps a little bit, doesn't it?
especially when I got to show up to the office occasionally and look semi-presentable.
Exactly. You want to pass the ball? I think Jim C hasn't gone.
All right, yeah, I'll pass it over to Jim.
Hey everyone, my name's Jim C. I am a Boston-based bike shop owner, but I'm also a bike messenger, and I've been doing that since the early 90s. I ride in everything. I've ridden in all different parts of the country because I've worked as a messenger in DC and Virginia and Los Angeles and Boston. So I have a little bit of experience all over the place.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. We're so glad you're here. We often hear it's not the weather, it's the clothing. And I wonder if you guys could jump in with some of the stuff that you use to either ride in the heat like Nacho or to ride in the snow. We've had Brett McGraw from Minneapolis and John Gibalisco from Omaha who have talked about doing these winter challenges with studded tires. What kind of equipment do you all use to handle the snow or the ice or the wind or the sun?
Yeah, I guess I can kick it off with that because I'm going to be quite the opposite of everybody else. Less is more on my side of the world. So yeah, we try to dress as light as possible and cover up as much as possible. So one of the things that I really invested a lot of money in this past summer was sun hoodies, just to make sure you have, long sleeves, head covered, ears covered, and as much as your face covered through like sunglasses and a very decent helmet. That's the name of the game. But as far as like surviving, it's less equipment and more of just your daily habits is hydration. There's days where I'll forget to really hydrate, that you'll feel it out on your ride that like, oh man, I was not really prepared for this. Hydration is a big part of for us, like surviving through the heat, because you're sweating a good amount, and that's where the less clothing is better, because you need to get that sweat going and evaporate it so you can cool down as much as possible.
Thanks, Nacho.
Maybe I can jump in a little bit with the other extreme here. It's not that different actually, Nacho, because we need to not wear too many layers either. And we have to adjust more the bike than the clothing. There is something that happens at -25. We were just talking about it on our group Discord yesterday that the gears slow down. And after -25, the bike is very different, the gears, and even if you have a belt drive. And you have to be careful not to fight that too much and try to go too hard because then you overheat. And wearing too many layers in the cold is also really bad. But I'd like to pull back for just a second and say that it's not even what you're wearing, but the condition of your trails. That is absolutely the number one thing I look at when I get up in the morning is how much did the snow blow? Did it happen overnight? And the city didn't have time to clean it up. To make things easier for myself, I got myself a fat bike with e-assist, and it's a game changer. I should send a bill to the city for $4,000 Canadian because now I don't worry so much whether there is a lot of wind, and we do get a lot of wind here, like Chicago, and that is our hills. So if I have the equipment to overcome the infrastructure, I'm about 3 steps ahead. But besides what I wear, I think the infrastructure is really number one.
And Patty, let me ask you really quick, when they don't plow the bike lanes or something like that, how do you get to work when you have to go in? How do you run your errands when you have to leave the house?
We do have one vehicle in the house, so I do have access, but to get to work, it also is prohibitive to drive because it's so expensive to park and inconvenient. So I do take transit. I'm very lucky that I have transit very close to my house, but the complaint is that transit here has to compete with traffic. So the buses are always stuck in traffic like everyone else. So we need to invest some money in that because traffic is getting really bad this year. Everyone is complaining that they've never seen traffic to be so heavy. My boss was complaining the other day and I said, "Oh, interesting. This is the least amount of traffic you will see for the rest of your life. Welcome to my tent."
Great.
One of the things I tell people who are thinking about winter commuting for the first time is don't go out and buy a bunch of things. If you live in a winter climate, you already own everything you need. You've got your snow pants, you've got your layers. So if you've ever gone skiing or skating or sledding, you're going to wear the exact same things you would wear to do that. So it's not about the gear. The only things I buy specific for my bike is I have studded tires that I run on my bike so that I don't slip on the ice. I also bought a ski helmet with a visor. Cold air on your eyeballs hurts, like your eyeballs freeze. I like to keep the wind out of my eyes, but those are the only things I bought specifically for cycling. The other piece I might just throw in, because I do ride with my kids all the time, is that you have to remember if you're trying to run errands with little people with you or, with larger people who just want to ride in your bike, you also have to think about them because they don't actually exert any energy. So you have to dress them a little bit differently. So I always tell people I dress as though it's about 10 degrees warmer than it actually is, so that once my blood gets pumping, I don't get too hot. But I will dress my passengers as though it's 10 degrees colder than it actually is, so that they don't get cold because they've got the wind on them. And then my cargo bike is, it's actually a cargo trike. And so I have a cover on the front of it, like a wind cover. It's technically for rain, but I use it for the cold to keep all of the cold air off the kids so they don't experience the wind chill. The only temperature they're experiencing is the actual real feel, not the wind on them. And then we'll use things like hot water bottles, or there's some really awesome reusable heat packs that I've got, some that are lap size, and I'll tuck them inside their snow pants and things like that to keep them warm. But if you're the rider, it's really just wearing what you already have.
I love the idea of using the ski helmet because I used my bicycle helmet when I first transitioned to a ski helmet. And I think that that's a great idea with goggles.
The approach I take for cold weather is to dress more warmly for my extremities than I would otherwise do for walking. So my hands, my feet, and my head, and dress a little less warmly for my torso because that can heat up. I sometimes find it frustrating in discussions about weather when people say there's no bad weather, only bad clothing, because if you are in a winter climate like many of us are talking about, okay, yeah, if you get an e-fat bike, then you're going to be able to handle pretty much everything fine. But for most bikes, if your city doesn't plow and maintain your bike paths, you're just out of luck. There's nothing you can do. You're reliant on your city in a way that isn't really the case for rain or for heat, where it is more of an individual, I can handle this type of thing.
And in Chicago, do they plow some of those bike paths? I know that there are some side of the road bike paths and of course the one by the lake.
I think Patrick makes a great point there. So Chicago is complicated. We do have snow plows for the bike lanes, but there's recently been some controversy because there was a big snowstorm and it took a really long time for them to clear them. And it turns out it's because the car infrastructure is plowed 24/7 through our streets and sanitation department. And the Department of Transportation, a separate department, plows the bike lanes and only 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And they only have enough plows that I think it takes them a whole week to cycle through the whole system. So if there's a heavy snowstorm,
crazy.
Yeah, it might take a few days.
Amazed at the Chicago bike lane plowing taking up to a week. Here, it will usually be plowed the day of the storm, if not the day after.
I think the blessing that I found is if snow is very extreme, I like a challenge. And so I biked to my local bar when it was like actively snowing. Conditions were quite poor. But the nice thing was drivers were going quite slowly. And so I just took up the main driving lane where the drivers are leaving car marks. I'm riding behind them. I'm keeping pace with traffic with my commuter e-assist bike because traffic was going about 20 miles an hour. And so it was actually surprisingly pleasant. But I think really it is like dressing well. I do a lot of interviews in the cold. I have a few photos on my website and my Instagram of people out in the snow where I may have biked 30 minutes to be there, and then we're standing out in the cold 30 minutes, and I have 30 minutes to get home. So it really is like figuring out your layers, making sure you're well dressed. I think to Patrick's point, like my standard winter coat, just like a nice wool coat, is totally fine. I might wear leggings under some jeans if it's really cold and I'm going for a while, but it's the gloves that are really key and goggles. To I think Sarah's point, like if it's really cold, it's going to be those extremities that you feel first. And there are what I know is bar mitts that I know a lot of people recommend that then give like an insulating layer on top of that. I don't do that because I don't like the look of them. I'm very particular. So I just have really thick ski gloves. And sometimes I'll slip an extra layer under that and I'm good to go. So really it is, you warm up quite fast. First 10 minutes are terrible, but then after that, you're good to go.
There's one thing that I have put off for so long when it comes to winter riding or just cold weather riding. In Vancouver, it doesn't get usually less than -5, maybe even 10 degrees in the coldest of days in the winter. And it's mittens. I put off mittens for so long until I finally read a book, Frostbiking, by Tom of Shifter. And he talked about mittens. And I was like, you know what? I'm finally going to try these mittens. And I put them on and I had the best ride I think I've ever had in the winter in Vancouver. I was like, oh, my hands can be warm when I get to my destination. But that just speaks to the previous speakers about having those extremities covered. And if you haven't tried mittens yet in the cold, try the mittens. They work so well.
And Nick, how about rain? Because, you know, in Vancouver, it does rain a lot. I had a really wonderful afternoon riding with
Lucy Maloney.
With Lucy Maloney. And we rode all through the city in the rain. And it was really, really a blast. I wonder what you use to keep dry.
Well, I think it's exactly like what the previous speakers had said. It's stuff I already had lying around. It was old rain pants I had from a previous job that I use now if I need them. I have just regular boots that are more or less waterproof. I have an old rain jacket that I use, and I just have regular gloves that you would get from a ski shop and things like that. It doesn't have to be some kind of fancy equipment you get from a bike shop. It doesn't have to be Gore-Tex. As long as when you get to your destination, you're mostly dry, it's going to be fine. But the one thing I really do like, especially in the winter and the dark days, is having some safety glasses to keep the rain out of your eyes.
How about a poncho or anything like that? Because sometimes my legs get wet when I ride in the rain.
Yeah, I prefer the rain pants myself, but ponchos are something I see relatively commonly here in Vancouver in the rainy months, but I haven't used one myself.
Great. Did everybody chime in on that?
I'd like to get in on this.
Oh, good. Sorry, Jim. Yeah.
First, as a messenger, sight lines are super important. I've heard everybody talking a little bit about glasses to protect the eyes, but also visors or the safety glass idea is really good. And everybody's talked about extremities, which yes, yes, keep those extremities warm. But one of the things that I figured out early was that if you have a little bit of air circulating somehow, then it really helps to keep the sweat from sticking to your clothes. It's okay to use some wind blocking in cold, but it's a really good idea to have a little bit of air circulating so that way it helps to balance your temperature. And that is especially on major efforts. If you're just commuting around, it's all right to bundle up and whatever, for 5 or 10 minutes. Think about how long you're going to be outside. Lastly, heavier lubricants for your bicycles, especially things like cables in winter, because cables will freeze. A heavy or a wet lube inside of your cables will keep everything working a little bit better. I really like single speeds in winter because they are much easier to go with. Single speeds, fenders. God, it took me too long to adopt fenders.
It's one thing to get to work or to get to school or to get to your destination. What do you do with your bike when you get there in the wintertime? Is there a safe place to lock your bike when you get there? And how important is that for you? And is it indoors or outdoors? And
I personally
anybody?
just shake my rainy bike off and just roll it into my workplace. I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. But one thing that's really useful in that case is having like a folding bike. If you can do that, because it's so much easier to just pack it away and tuck it under your desk if you need it.
I'm very lucky that I get to bring my bike inside and store it behind my desk in my office. I think one of the second reasons people don't ride bikes, especially in Winnipeg, is the bike theft issue. No secure bike parking. We're really behind on providing alternatives for people. Like, you have free car storage everywhere, or even paid car storage, but we have very little paid or free bike storage. Providing parking is really important to encourage people to take their bikes and go.
Nacho from Tempe. So what we have to account for over here, like we're trying to store our bikes outside or anywhere, is the fact that is my bike going to bake in the sun all day? If I park my bike here and it's going to sit here for 4 hours in 110-degree plus heat, it's going to bake stuff. Rubber and the latex and some of the materials in our grips start to act funny and get real sticky. We got to think about the sun and the heat a little bit differently as well, as much as you guys think about it for the winter.
And just one thing I wanted to mention too is we talked a lot about gear, but from a lot of the people I talked to, it's really like a mental thing. It's like people think they can't bike in winter, but once you try it, you realize it's not that bad. I think in a similar way, like if you've never skied or skated in the cold, you think it's a lot colder than it is because you're used to standing around, right? If someone says, oh, I'm biking in 20-degree weather, you think of standing outside for an hour in 20 degrees, but that's not the experience. So my encouragement is always to tell people hey, just ride 5 minutes to the grocery store. And then you'll find out oh, okay, I need better gloves, but actually my body was really warm. So I think encouraging people that it's up in here. You have most of the gear, I think, like Sarah was saying, but it's really that mental and emotional of you can do it, and then you'll figure it out as you go.
The sort of point that we're trying to do here today with everybody is to open the eyes or open the doors of our listeners to get out there and ride in inclement weather and show your neighbors and the people at Trader Joe's or wherever you happen to be going that it's not only possible, it's fun. And I think it's always faster and safer than it is to get into a car to, run those short errands. So that was a great note, that it's more mental than anything else.
Like, winter is not just one thing. We all think about the snowstorms and the cold snaps, and that is some percentage of winter, but most winter days are not snowing. They're, around the average temperature of the winter by definition. Many winter days are mild. Many winter days feel like spring is coming soon. And if you set a threshold, I won't bike below this temperature yet, you can still probably bike for a lot of winter days, even if you avoid the worst conditions.
Because winter days are short. What do you do about nighttime?
I have a different approach in general for many people here because my main method of biking in the winter is bike share here. The Bixby bike share in Montreal. They take care of the maintenance. It's, no problem with storage, no problem with theft. They come with studded tires, the only bike share system in the world, I think, that does that. And they also come with lights. So it's kind of everything is handled for you. I really only got into winter cycling, comfortably and consistently a few years ago, 3 years ago or so, with bike share being available, because before that, the maintenance and storage of my bike in winter was it was a pain. is it worth it to bike for this trip if I'm going to have to, carry the snowy bike up the stairs into my apartment? And, if you have a garage, then some of those things are not problems. But yeah, bike share is, for me, the solution to a lot of these problems. And if you're in a city like Toronto, I think Chicago has bike share over winter. It's something to consider if don't want to worry about your own bike.
Patrick uses the lights from the bike share. Anybody else have any light advice for the longer nights of winter?
But I think lights are one of the things that, we've done lots of talking today about the hard parts of biking in extreme weather. I will always winter bike because it's way more fun than driving or any other option. But when we are in the dull, gray days of winter, and when we are like in Edmonton, it's dark until about 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's not light. And then the sun is gone by 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we hit the winter solstice. Like, we don't get a lot of light. So I love, and lots of us do, we put Christmas lights on our bikes. So our bikes makes the bike look more approachable. It makes it look more fun. So my cargo bike gets decked out in lights all winter long so that you can see it. I also have a reflective jacket that I wear. I think Bike Lane Uprising sells them. People might be familiar. It looks gray, but when headlights hit it, you're blindingly viewable. So I wear that too, just for a safety. But I like the twinkly lights just because it makes winter fun. For me, part of winter biking is the mental health piece. Like, it keeps me from being depressed. It keeps me from running into that seasonal depression. And when we can throw some lights and some color back onto our streets that are dark or gray for most of the winter months, it's just one of the things that brings me joy in biking. And I love running into other cyclists who've done the same thing and have, wrapped some LEDs around their frames. And it's really just fun.
Does anybody have any last thoughts? I love the encouragement from Sarah. Jim?
Yeah, I'd love to really quickly here say, it sounds like we've got a lot of folks who ride on cargo bikes and maybe even electric bikes. As your mechanic, I just want to say, this is an all-year bike. As we come into spring, take a look at some of the things that are consumables on a bicycle, like your chain, your brake pads, your rotors, your rims. These are the things that kind of wear down. Salt is gnarly. It will strip paint. So it's a good idea to, every once in a while, at least clean it off. And if you have an electric bike, you have a lot of different connections there. So in really cold weather, 1, pull your battery. Don't leave it out in the cold. Number 2, dry off some of the electrical parts when you get a chance or when you think about it, because I don't want anybody's bike catching on fire.
That's a great note.
One of the things that I would wish that we had gotten across was that we talk a lot about how kids these days are all on a phone and not connected with the world. Well, the car is kind of like that too. Bikes get you connected with your community, and they do that in winter too.
Victor?
Yeah, you were mentioning bike share. I think just want to give a huge shout out to all of the people that make bike infrastructure work. I've had a few times where the train stops working. Like, we had a quick snowstorm, a train hit a car and it wasn't working. And I just grabbed an electric bike share bike, took it to a different transit stop, and was good to go. So really, when cities invest in that infrastructure, whether it's plowing the bike lanes, whether it's salting, whether it's the bike share system, it really makes it easier for people to get around, and also creates a more resilient city where if one mode of transit is having issues, people can move around in the system and find alternate methods.
That's a great note.
If I can say one last thing for myself, I'd love for people to just not think all or nothing for winter cycling. Do it one day, see how it feels. Do it for the money, because you're going to save a lot of money. A bike is cheaper to maintain, Jim, right? Than a car. Even though you have to maintain it, it's still cheaper. But you're going to be shocked and surprised, and pleasantly so, how much it's going to change the way you feel about winter. I'm Brazilian. I'm 52 years old. This is my 4th winter cycling, and I haven't said the words "I hate winter" in 4 years. And we have some harsh winters here. So, do it because of the money, but reap the benefits of even just 1 day, 2 days, and then you're going to get addicted, and your life is going to change completely. And I cannot tell you enough how much that is true. And that alone should be the reason for you to just try.
That's great.
Yeah, one last thing I'd like to say is something that's always comes to my mind. We've forgotten how to navigate a world outside of a car, collectively, North America. And it's a lost skill, but it's something that we can gain back. And I think it's just as easy as trial and error. Just get out there and try it. Some days they might suck. You might end up like me with cold hands when you get to work, but you learn different techniques. You figure out what works. You look at your weather app in the morning. You go, okay, I know exactly what I need to wear to get to where I'm going comfortably. And then just try it. Give it a shot.
I think it's useful to put the challenges of, winter cycling, in my case, in context. So yes, there are challenges to winter cycling. Salt is awful on your bike, but salt is also awful for cars. Like, cars degrade faster in Canada because of salt. And we have to do all this plowing to make cars work in winter. If you have a snowstorm, you have to dig out your car, you have to move your car for snow plowing. Those are lots of difficulties that we just don't really notice because we're used to them. Whereas cycling, and especially winter cycling, is a novelty. It's new to a lot of people. So the challenges stand out.
You're capable more than what you think of. Start slow and then just slowly build it up.
Right. Well, if anybody knows what they're talking about, I think this panel does, I wonder if you could just go through and say your name and where you are again so our audience knows that we know from which we speak about winter biking. Sarah, you want to start?
Sure. So Sarah Bisbee, and in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
And what's the temperature today in Edmonton?
It is minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. At the wind chill, I think we're about minus 40.
I'm Victor Koves from Chicago, Illinois in the USA. And yeah, it's a very cold day, unusually cold. I think -8 Fahrenheit without the wind chill, and I think -40 with. So very, very cold.
Great. Nick?
I'm in Vancouver, BC, and it looks like we have a nice balmy 6 degrees Celsius today. Nice sunshine.
I'm Patrick of the YouTube channel Oh the Urbanity. I live in Montreal, Quebec, and it is not that cold today, minus 11 Celsius, 13 Fahrenheit.
Sounds cozy.
Yeah, my name's Jim Cadenhead, and I'm with Battle Road Bikes in Lexington, just north of Boston. And currently our temperature is about 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
I'm Patty Wiens, bicycle mayor of Winnipeg. I wrote a book called That'll Never Work Here, and I have a podcast, That's Her Problem. And like I said, I'm in Winnipeg, Canada. It is minus 35 Celsius, minus 31 Fahrenheit plus wind, so I win.
And Nacho?
Find me in July. I'm in a sweater in Tempe, Arizona. It's 63 degrees outside, and I'm cold.
Great.
It's relative.
Well, thank you all so much for taking the time. And for Nick, who's in Massachusetts, and I'm in Los Angeles, everybody keep riding all winter long, no matter where you are. And I look forward to talking to you all again. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
So I had a few takeaways from this interview with all your riders. One is mittens.
Mittens over gloves.
I guess, yeah. I've been thinking about those, 2-finger mittens.
Yeah.
The ones that like lobster claws. But also, not too many layers. I always kind of thought just wear a ton of layers was a rule, but I guess you don't want to have to be taking them on and off too much, or did you?
Right,
understand?
once you start sweating, right.
Yeah. I was out in the snow because of this snowpocalypse, and I got hot quick, and it was like in the single digits.
One of the things I use a lot is a scarf. Even in Los Angeles when it's chilly, a scarf, because your neck is kind of exposed, you're kind of leaning forward and sticking your head out. I like that scarf around the neck.
All right. But I don't think anybody needs help in Los Angeles weather. Trying to figure out how to... But a scarf, yeah. All right. Good show.
We want to thank Laura Mitchell and Brett McGraw from Minneapolis, and Damian Kevitt from SAFE, Jim Pocrass from Pocrass and De Los Reyes. And we want to thank our all-weather biking panel, Patty Wiens, Jim Cadenhead, Nick Laporte, Patrick Murphy, Ignacio Delgadillo, and Sarah Bisbee.
Yeah, that was great.
And of course, we always want to thank our regulars, Julie Richard, Kevin Burton, Charlie Lighthizer, Amy Ziering, Lindsay Sturman, Stacey Randecker, and Josh Hageland.
Yes. Should I say the quote this time?
I think you should, because it's yours.
Yeah, there's no bad weather, just inappropriate clothes or infrastructure.
Exactly. And that last part is the key part.
Yeah. You should just wear what you have, is what our all-weather panel told us, I think.
Right.
But we need better streets.
Yep.
Oh, and they need to plow the bike lanes and the sidewalks.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Taylor.
Ride safe.
Hi, this is Stacey with a bike thought. One of the things I love about biking is the simplicity of it. I bike for transportation more than the fun of it, and I just get on my bike and ride. Whether I'm wearing jeans or a dress and high heels, I just go as I am. I am also living in the gloriously temperate San Francisco Bay Area. I don't know if I would fare as well in the northern tundras or the southern deserts, but I guess you get used to it. One thing we can't get used to is the number of people injured and killed on our streets just because they are outside of a car. I'm grateful for Damian Kevitt and organizations like SAFE in LA that are holding our leaders to account. And we must never get used to our government taking over our cities and streets, terrorizing communities, and violating our civil and human rights. Streets are for everyone, for you, for me, for Renee Good, and for Alex Preddy. Walk for them, ride for them, and continue to fight for our streets. This episode of Bike Talk is sponsored by the law offices of Pocrass and De Los Reyes, with offices in Los Angeles and Bakersfield and serving all of Southern California.
Bike Talk is a project of CRSP and the Los Angeles Eco-Village Institute. And that was Bike Talk. If you have a story, a tip, or a topic, head over to biketalk.org and send us a message. Talk again next week.
Get on your bike, sit on the seat, put your feet on the pedal, and run all around, run all around. Get on your bike, sit on the seat, put your feet on the pedal, and run all around, run all around. Get that car out of my way, I wanna ride my bike today. Keep me fit, get me there, I won't go stinking up the air. Leave behind the daily grind, let your mind unwind. If it's life, pretend to life, better get yourself a bike. Get yourself a bike. Oh, 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 get yourself a bike.